to Start All Wars, Chapter 8, Hitler's Struggle, 1925 through 1945. 1. Hitler joins a German nationalist party in 1919 at the age of 29 to 30. After Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, he developed into a mesmerizing master persuader. Why did people believe him? He had gone from borderline, unemployed, 30-year-old person with no family, no friends, no money, no education, and no prospects to dictator of a superpower. How did he do this? The German beer halls of 1929 through 1923. After the war, beer halls became forums for tiny political parties to vent their anger or share their dreams. Nationalists gathered, but so did socialists and communists. The German Workers' Party hated Jews, capitalists, and communists for starters. Picture on the left, a Nazi caricature of a Jewish banker. Picture on the right, Nazi caricature of communist Joseph Stalin on a Jewish leash. It truly makes no sense. On the left, we have a capitalist. On the right, we have a communist. In Hitler's mind, the Jews were controlling them both. German beer halls. Because I've tried to understand what motivated these people, the Nazis, I looked at what might be missing from their lives. On the surface, they are making political or racial arguments. But on a deeper level, Hitler was distant from others, not very social, with no secure job, no education, and no future. He could be obsessed with cleanliness, and at this point in his life, he stayed away from tobacco, alcohol, women, and other people. With no hobbies, sports, or other activities, Hitler was left with his thoughts and ended up in a bar. Why are other people spending so much time in bars, recriminating about a war that is over? Where are their jobs, their wives, their children, church groups in religious Germany, or where are their other activities? Are the other members of the German Workers' Party also without good families or friends? Is their work deeply rewarding, or does it just pay the bills? Are politics and beer all they have? Does this drive their eventual life or death commitment to the Nazi Party? Is politics filling a gigantic void in their life where family and relationships and satisfying work and play are all missing? Hitler was persuasive, and part of persuasion is having an audience that is predisposed to hearing your message. Now, previously, Hitler's fellow soldiers nicknamed him the White Crow, the Misfit, and the Woman Hater. But now he was center stage with people who believed everything he believed and were just as enraged as he was. So who were Hitler's role models and mentors? Hitler apprenticed under Benito Mussolini, the Italian dictator, and appears to have paid close attention to what Lenin and Stalin were implementing in Russia. Remember that Lenin and Stalin came to power in 1917, and Hitler ultimately comes to power in 1933. So there was a lot of time to learn a lot of things. Their programs were often very similar. Except for Stalin, all of these dictators whom I have mentioned were mesmerizing speakers. All of them created cults of personality. They ended all rights. They each murdered millions. Hitler, the mesmerizing speaker, although in films we see him ranting, wild-eyed, and looking like a foaming dog, reality is a lot more complicated than that. Yes, he would do that sort of thing some of the time, but that is because Hitler practiced every gesture and every vocal inflection. Notice, too, his efforts to be as stylish as possible. This actually kind of surprised me because I personally don't notice people's clothing, but you can look at photo after photo after photo, and Hitler is impeccably tailored, always has his hair exactly the way he wants it, and his gestures, if you watch him in films, everything is extremely polished and practiced. Hitler believed that speakers were the most influential people, far above ordinary politicians, titans of industry, scientists, inventors, doctors, lawyers, writers, artists, musicians, or anyone else. So he had made a meticulous study of acting, vocal tonality, body language, emotional manipulation, and the psychology of persuasion. There is a film, The Triumph of the Will, that was the Nazis' view of themselves. Now, from a film standpoint, it has sky high production values and makes most lists of the top 100 World War II movies of all time. And it does not make that list because we are all pro Nazi and we think the Nazis are good. It makes the list because it really truly shows what the Nazis wanted us to see from their point of view. As a historical document, it's really irreplaceable. For days, Hitler would practice every gesture, every vocal quiver, every word. He would speak constantly to many audiences to test their reactions. And eventually, he hired Joseph Goebbels, who became the Reich Minister of Propaganda. Goebbels eventually controlled every Nazi publication, film, and contact with the public. Goebbels had a PhD and, unfortunately for the world, a razor-sharp mind. Hitler believed that speakers were the most influential people, as I'd mentioned before. Uh, Later, Goebbels was actually kind of jealous of Winston Churchill because of Churchill's amazing ability to turn a phrase. They both believed, Hitler and Goebbels, that if you want to dominate, you must master the techniques of persuasion. When Hitler came along, he did not look or sound like any other politician. The rest of the politicians in Germany were absolutely unprepared to deal with him. Then came the Beer Hall Putsch of 1923. The Nazi Party tried to take over Munich, but the police stopped them. 20 people died, and Hitler went to prison. This photo is of the 15th anniversary of the Putsch. The Nazis mythologized it as part of their struggle of destiny. 6. From prison, Hitler wrote his autobiography, Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf, My Struggle, is Hitler's autobiography, and it also is the outline of his political beliefs and his future plans for Germany. This will be covered in Chapter 9, Hitler's Goals. People have said about Mein Kampf is, the great tragedy isn't that people read it. It's that more people didn't read it. If people had paid attention to what Hitler was thinking, maybe we could have avoided Hitler as Chancellor, World War II, and the Holocaust. 7. The Nazi Party grows very slowly from 1925 to 1929. Now, despite all of Hitler's relentless work, speaking, writing, persuading, the Nazis essentially go nowhere from 1920 to 1929. Their best election was 3% in 1924, which dropped to 2.6% after 4 years of hard work in 1928. They were a fringe party that held ridiculous grudges about the Jews and the Treaty of Versailles. Maybe they were lunatics. Their leader was a convict who had tried to overthrow the government. In prison, Hitler received beef, beer, and lots of visits from his friends. This is actually a prison photo that you are seeing. And you'll notice Hitler in suspenders and a tie with his hair just the way he wants it. The man is obsessed with his image. 8. The crash of 1929 and the Great Depression. But the crash of 1929 saved Hitler. When the Great Depression devastated Germany, throwing millions out of work, sending the unemployment rate to 40% as compared to 25% in America, Hitler then seized the moment. Having polished his speech making for 10 years, he dropped the Jew smears and now broadened his appeal to talk about the economy. Coupled with a popular message, his masterful techniques won him huge crowds and followers who would march with him anywhere. But while Hitler was appealing to more voters, the Nazis were still known for their street violence against communists, Jews, and other people. Street violence between Nazis and communists. Now, Germany had only had a democracy from 1918 to 1932, and it was very fragile. It was formed at the end of World War I when the country was mostly in a state of collapse. They were used to an angry dictator, Kaiser Wilhelm II, who had ruled for 30 years. So, when people didn't like election results, they took to the streets and fought gun battles. The picture is a still from an amateur video taken at the time. The Nazis and the communists were shooting at each other in the streets. As Hitler stoked the public's rage at the Depression and his soldiers took shots in the streets, it appeared that Hitler wanted to finalize the vision and strategy and tactics of his future Nazi racial utopia. That is the end of chapter 8. Next chapter is Hitler's goals. What did Hitler exactly want?